the vision you seize. TVET and Kenyan setting us free. Skills on the rise, brighter days ahead. Now we got the tools to forge and set. From dreams to reality, taking the lead. CBET to answer, planting a seed. Creating futures, a legacy to unfold. In the heart of Kenya, stories retold.
I start by greeting you all, my esteemed viewers and followers in Flockhill Show. And today I want to focus on CBET, or what we call Competency-Based Education and Training, which is a curriculum that is supposed to be implemented in TVET institutions. Sometimes back, the TVET institutions started embracing the CBET, or Competency-Based Education and Training, and there are a few areas I need to clarify about what is supposed to happen during assessment. And the body now, which is tasked with the duty of assessing students in TVET institutions, is what we are calling TVET CDACC, or TVET Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. Now, when it comes to assessment, there are a few things that need to be understood. And it is for that reason I'm going just to briefly mention about the guidelines of competency-based assessment. In competency-based education and training, assessment of trainee is required to commence as soon as he or she is enrolled in a course, because the emphasis is more on continuous assessment rather than on summative assessment, since competence is developed over time. In this regard, therefore, more of the assessments are conducted by the trainers, or the ones who are referred to as internal assessors, and the records are maintained for review by TVET CDACC and TVET officers during external quality assurance of the assessment process. And the following are the guidelines for assessment of trainees during training. Number one, we have development of assessment tools. The trainers in training institutions will develop assessment tools for assessing trainees in various units of competency. And the principal of each institution will submit to TVET CDACC the developed assessment tools for quality checks, together with timetable for assessment of trainees during the training period. The assessment tools developed are required to adhere to guidelines on development of assessment tools. In addition, the assessment tool for assessing competence of a trainee in a course is required to be customized to the course. For example, communication skills for office administration is different from that of building technology. And number three, TVET CDACC will submit the assessment tools after quality checks to the institutions so that the trainers can conduct an assessment as per timetable submitted to the council and maintain assessment records. Then the next thing I need to mention briefly on the guidelines is on maintenance of portfolio of evidence. Assessment results per trainee of all assessments conducted during the training will be maintained in a file at the head of department's office, or in an office at the department level set aside for the purposes of storing POE files. This file will consist of all evidence of assessment conducted during training, including but not limited to marked scripts for written tests, observation checklists with feedback to trainees, products checklists with feedback to trainees, assessment plans for assessment conducted at the end of units of competency, audio and video recordings of evidence, for example, showing a trainee performing practical tasks of products. Audio and video recording may be stored in a computer, but backup meant on external hard disks and other means such as cloud. The other thing is that the replica of a file of the trainee's POE that we have mentioned above will also be maintained by the trainer or the internal assessor. Each internal assessor will maintain all assessment tools and assessment outcomes of all trainees in all assessments conducted in a trainer's file, with copies being maintained by internal verifier. And in our case, internal verifier in our institutions is HOD. Then the other thing is that each internal verifier will maintain a record of internal verification reports for every verification activity carried out. In other words, the HOD in every department is supposed to always conduct meetings and do verification of the POEs, both for the trainer and the trainee, and of course, the verification reports for every activity that is carried out. Then the other thing that I would wish to mention is that assessment of trainees for partial qualification specific units of competency. In this case, for a trainee interested in being enrolled and assessed in specific units of competency, the trainers / internal assessors will conduct diagnostic assessment to determine which basic all common units the trainee should be trained on, in addition to core units of competency of interest. I would wish to make sure to mention here that when it comes to categorization of units, we have what we are calling the basic units, and in this case, the basic units are not accompanied by the practical assessment. But for all core units, they are supposed to have both theory assessment and practical assessment. We also have in some courses what we are calling common units, and this will be determined based on the courses that are being offered in TVET institutions. Then I mentioned briefly something to do with industrial attachment and training. Industrial attachment and training is an integral part of training, and hence every trainee is required to be placed in a relevant workplace and assessed using mentoring tools. A trainee is required to meet the requirements of the mentoring tools to be awarded a national certificate. Then very quickly, I'll run through the components of portfolio of evidence, or in other words, what we refer to as POE. With the components of portfolio of evidence, they will include, but not limited to, the following. Number one, marked written scripts. Number two, written and oral assessment mark sheets for each trainee. Number three, observation checklists. Number four, product checklists. And number five, evidence of oral questions, that is video or audio clips. Number six, video / photo clips of trainee working and all products. Number seven, assessment plans. And number eight, signed and dated feedback forms. Number 9, internal verification reports. And finally, number 10, field mentoring tools. In other words, every trainee's file should have these details. Having mentioned about the components of POEs, I now wish to stop my presentation and hope that we have got a few insights of what is supposed to happen during assessment. And I would also emphasize that with the CBET, we always have the formative assessment, which is conducted by the internal assessor, and we also have the summative assessment, which will be conducted by the external assessors. And of course, there is always verification and audit of the reports. Thank you so much for viewing Frokell's show. We feel honored for you to follow us and even subscribe to our channel. We would wish to get your comments, like our videos, and tell us what you feel that we should address in as far as CBET curriculum is concerned. Thank you so much, and we all wish that you could now embrace the new curriculum, which is Competency-Based Education and Training. in TVET institutions, the sky is the limit. Thank you so much.